Hi, this is Cliff Holmes, founder of thegospelblog.com, where proven ministry leaders come on and they share their experiences and their stories so we can all learn from them. Today, my guest is Gerald Scott, who's an accomplished gospel artist. Gerald, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How you?
I'm good. So
Good,
why don't
good.
you tell me, how'd you get started in music ministry?
Oh man, I've been doing music ministry my whole life. I've been always, grew up singing in the choir and being a part of different musical aggregations all over the city. And I started playing organ at my church when I was about 15. And I say from that time I've been in full-time music ministry actually. So it's something I've been doing lifelong.
So what's it been like just doing full-time ministry? How has that experience worked out for you? Were there days where you just said, I'd rather be doing something else?
Yeah.
I could probably sweep floors and get a lot less stressed. I mean,
Right. Yeah. Well, that thought always comes to mind. You always think about the fact that there is a big burden on you. As far as what you have to produce every week, as far as your Sunday morning ministry and where you're attached. Sometimes you think, I wish I worked a regular job, but that thought is only lasts about 10 minutes. You get over that real fast. So, but it's been great. It's been a wonderful experience for me. I love what I do, and I just know how it feels for so many people to not love what they do. So I appreciate God for the opportunity.
now, in addition to music, in addition to gospel, you've also worked with some mainstream artists like Stevie Wonder, Patti LaBelle, Trace Atkins. You know, after those experiences, why settle with gospel music? Well, not really settle, but why
Right,
choose
right.
gospel instead of something else? You've had experience with other artists. Why not go into other genres?
Yeah, we've had some amazing opportunities to work with these artists, Kennedy Center honors and things like that, and it was just a wonderful thing to meet them and learn from them and see how they do things. It was an amazing thing to meet Trace Atkins and work with him. He's a country music singer. We've never done anything like that. But I think that my calling actually was towards gospel music. It's what I know in my heart that God wanted me to do. So it was an easy decision for me. I'm actually, I'm more comfortable with it. And so once the opportunity came presented itself for me to go forward, I just knew that, service to the Lord in that art form of music was the way to go.
It's interesting that you chose to stick with your calling. And I think there are a lot of musicians and artists out there who they may have been called to gospel, but
Right.
they go into something else because, to be honest with you, in some cases, that something else tends to be more profitable than gospel.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely. Yeah, I know a lot of people who, the money calls them and they hit the road. And I'm not mad at them. I understand that. It's a difficult decision. I want to say, like, if you're trying to stick with gospel over any secular thing for money purposes, gospel's going to lose. and,
oh
and
yeah, oh yeah.
that's an easy decision. But for me, it was just a matter of what I knew God wanted me to do and me staying focused and just believing in His will and His word. I knew that He wanted me to do this and He would extend where I would be going, extend my territory through this. So it was an easy decision for me.
So were there some things that you learned from working with mainstream artists that you might not have learned in the gospel area?
Absolutely. I just feel like, and this is not a slight to anyone doing gospel music, the professionalism on the other side is just unmatched on
Yeah.
our side. Their work ethic, even down to basic stuff like the way they do sound checks and the way, I always laugh. We did a show. I was in a choir who sang background for Kennedy Center Honors. And this was a long time ago. I was actually in high school, and it was Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles. They were both at pianos going back and forth, and the way they did their sound check and how intense they were about their music and the professionalism they brought to the stage. It's just something that we haven't always done in gospel. It's now getting to that point. But when we do operate on that level, as far as being very serious about what we're trying to do, very professional and accountable for what we got going on, there's always a great result. Whenever all the musicians, all the singers get to sound check on time and we do a good sound check, we have prayer and we're focused on what we're trying to do, the show is always amazing. And that's something that they understand very well on the secular side. So I try to bring that over. It's not always something that we can accommodate, but I try to bring that over. So those things that I've experienced.
Why do you think there's such a disparity in the levels of professionalism?
I think, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that we mostly, as gospel artists, we minister to church people
Hmm.
at church. And so sometimes, you're not going to be in big galas and
Yeah.
ballrooms and things like that. And so, this is where we are. And sometimes even if you're on a certain level, the venue or the people you're ministering to might not be there. So, sometimes the service is supposed to start at 7. You can almost bet it's going to start at 7:30.
Yeah.
And it just happens like that. That's just culture. Sometimes with church, you try to make an audience out of a family. And it's not necessarily there, even though they may pay tickets and stuff like that to come see you, they're not necessarily an audience and we just put on a show for them. This is a together kind of thing. We're ministering to them and we're praising God and with them. So sometimes you have to understand the fact that it might not go all the way there. But there are a lot of times when professionally, it's on a high level and, we are able to incorporate both.
Now, is there a different mentality that you have to use when you're trying to minister to a family versus an audience?
Absolutely. When you do things that are for promotional purposes and you want to go out there, you want to do your top single and you want to do it in a matter, you want to do your whole set in 10 minutes and you want to hit everybody's attention first. And those things have their place. Sometimes you don't have a lot of time and sometimes it's a situation where you have to go ahead and promote yourself and what you're doing. But then there are times when ministry has to be in the forefront, and this should be every time you minister. But sometimes you're in the middle of your set, God can just transition that moment and take you somewhere else completely. And those times are actually amazing. You can end up singing just worship songs and enjoying that moment with a church body. And those times I always tell people you can't pay for those. Those are priceless times and stuff like that. And those times may not present themselves in some more structured environments. Some people try to take them in more structured environments and they end up, losing. But it's something that you always want to keep in mind. You always want to be in tune with the Spirit of God, when you're ministering. And sometimes that may pull you out of your set, it may pull you out of your format. And that's a great thing. As long as you're in tune, God will get the glory.
So let's talk about that group of singers and musicians that you have that accompany you. How did you first form your group?
Actually, when I first started working, doing a record, we didn't have a group. I just wanted to record some songs to actually submit to other artists. I just was in the studio. I was like 20 years old. And, I just called different singers all over the city, to help me, different musicians that I was close to. I actually played a lot on my first record. I played a lot of the organ and keyboard parts, but it was just because we were just trying to get something done, and that process turned us into a group or into a family. The singers and the musicians, and it was a great experience. All the people were handpicked and people that I've known for years, and most of them are still with me now. Sometimes we interchange. We have fill-ins, band and singers, but I wouldn't trade anything for them. They're the best people to travel with. We just got back from Atlantic City this weekend doing a show, and that bus ride with those crazy loud people, you can't and deny that. So they're a good group of people.
So having been in the church most of your life or all your life, I'm sure once you start a group, I'm sure there's people who want to be part of the group that you might not be the one. How did you handle that?
I don't think I've experienced it yet. I know a lot of people may want to sing, and most of the people that have had the desire to sing, they do sing, or they may sing with me on a fill-in basis, and they may have wanted to sing or play on a more permanent basis. I have yet to experience someone who says, "Oh my God, I want to sing," and they can't sing at all. So I'm saying now, I don't know what I'll do in that situation. Hopefully I'll handle it with grace and dignity. But whenever that happens, hopefully somebody else can get to them before I do. And just let them know, you might not be ready yet.
So I'm sure the people that you're working with are hardworking people.
Absolutely.
Name their names, because let's give them some love.
Not a problem. I certainly will. Well, first of all, I'll start with the singers. Okay. There's a great background singer in this area who does a lot of background singing. He does stuff for James Fortune, Byron Cage, Vashawn Mitchell. His name is James Murphy, and he's an artist unto himself, and he's been very faithful in helping us do what we're trying to do. A lot of them are preachers and singers and teachers in their own ministry. Is a good friend of mine who's been with me from the very beginning, Whitney Jackson, some music majors, Amber Harmon, Sean Roberts. Let me see who else went with us to this trip. Christian Barnes. There's some great singers in this area that have helped us so much, and they've been with me for the long haul. As far as musicians, we all kind of grew up together, came up together, learning and playing together. But it's just amazing to watch each of us blossom into what we're doing. Whereas first, some guys were just keyboard players or just bass players. Like now they're full out producers. There's a close friend of mine who's done a lot of work on our new record named Sean Miles. We just call him Smiles. And he's just developing. We did one of my favorite songs together. He produced with me on a new record. It's called Back With You. Warren Jones, a very notable name in this area, wrote songs for T.D. Jakes and was a big songwriter and producer for the band Gideon Band. Dominic Austin, he's a drummer. He's a drummer for me, but he's usually off on the road with Kurt Carr. And actually, to be honest, I'm glad I have this platform. He is not able to go with us this weekend coming. And this is the first gig of ours that he's missed in almost 2 years. And so, he's got the Iron Man award like Cal Ripken, just saw the shows. It's the first one he's going to miss. So we're going to play a lot of jokes for him, while he's gone and make it pretend like he missed a lot, so. But these guys are great, each of them, it's been a pleasure working with them. We're very close. We're like family. We don't always agree, but we always, at the end of the day, even after major disagreements, we always love each other. Even when we still mad, we just always love each other. So it's good to be around this kind of group of people where it's professional and it's also family.
So from what I understand from talking to different people, when you're a leader of a group like that, in some ways, you're kind of like the shepherd of the group. So how have you dealt with that? Or have you felt like that you've been shepherding the group in some aspects? Well,
what I like to do is I'm always afraid of the whole idea of group leaders wanting to assume the role of pastors and things like that. I always felt like that's a little too far. But in terms of what the set ministry is or the set plan for what we're doing, is that is a role that I would assume. I always pray and try to understand exactly the direction God wants us to go in, and it's just a matter of conveying that to the people that are singing and ministering with us, and they just catch the vision and go with it. We like to hold each other accountable and pray with each other and pray for each other. We definitely wouldn't let each other just live crazy kind of lives. So I'd like to say we hold each other accountable without setting ourselves over anybody. So you do shepherd your vision, shall I say. But as far as shepherding the people, sometimes that's dangerous if you're not a pastor, if you haven't been called to that. But yeah, I understand definitely. It's a great deal of shepherding in that.
So let's talk about your upcoming album, Incredible.
Right.
How was this album? That's right. Show everybody.
Yeah.
How is this album different from your previous two albums?
Absolutely, this one is so different. When we maybe a year ago, I was on Twitter and I just was talking, and I think now that I look back, I think I may have been having some frustration about us not. I just wanted everyone to hear our music. I get to a place sometimes where I'm like, I don't even sell the CD. If I can hand it to somebody, and there are people who tell me not to do that, but I just wanted the opportunity to just keep making music. Like that's all I wanted to do. And so I kind of tweeted with a lot of other people, and I came up with the idea to do a mixtape. And so I just wanted to do a lot of the styles of music and a lot of different songs that I wouldn't normally do with our group based on our style. And I wanted to kind of branch out from that. And so we just started working on that, just, in and out of studios from DC to Baltimore, just recording whenever we can. We were just going to record a lot of songs, mix them, and give them away on the internet, like on bandcamp.com or something like that. And in that process, we got a deal. Like, people liked it and wanted to hear it a lot. And so because of that process, it's very different. It's not, we normally have a format for how we make records, and this one is completely against the format. Like, this is everybody that we, consider family. They're working together on this, and different kinds of songs, a lot of additions. So I love it. It's a great record for me. I had a lot of fun making it.
So the title of the album is Incredible.
Incredible. Yeah.
How did that name come about?
There's a song that I did with a keyboard player and producer from this area named Curtis Pitts. And he was actually playing for me a long time ago. We grew up together. And he had a song that he wanted to finish, but it was almost finished, and he just gave me a track, and he was like, G, can you help me finish this? And I was listening to it, and the track, the music, and everything he had done already to it, I was just like, dude, this is incredible. So it became a joke, actually. We didn't know the name of it. We just say, the Incredible song. We wrote it. I finished writing it. We recorded it, got it done. And the song lended itself to the title, Incredible. And it was just an amazing track, first track on the record. So we just named the whole record after it. And I was just hoping that it would just give people an idea of how fun this record would be.
So you talked about jumping around from studio to studio, recording different tracks. About how long did all this take you, do you think?
We couldn't time it because since it was a mixtape, we would just work when we could and then stop. Like normally on our records, we start and we go in and we don't stop until we're finished, day after day after day. Like we only stop on Sundays to go to church. Mm-hmm. But this one, if I had to add it all up, I would say maybe 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
Of time in total. Normally, we don't work out of a lot of different studios too. We don't work off of a lot of different hard drives. We like to keep our stuff together. But this one, we just, we did it where it was really about doing it where we could, when we could, whenever people were available, because it wasn't a full record. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I would say close to 3 months.
Now, from what I understand, you're going to have a CD release party.
Yep.
Tell me about that.
Yep.
When is it?
I'm excited about it. It's July 14th. It's at the Master's Child Church, and that's in District Heights, Maryland. It's like literally 3 minutes outside of D.C. So I know a lot of people who see it says Maryland, they think, is it Baltimore or is it D.C.? No, if you make a couple wrong turns, you'll be in D.C. It's not that far at all. We got a great friend of mine, Claude Deuce from Augusta, Georgia. He's singing on it. Another great, wonderful, wonderful praise and worship leader, Tia Pittman. She's actually Tia Mintz now. She is singing. She's doing a praise and worship set. It's being hosted by my good friend, Reverend Anika Brown from Union Temple Baptist Church. And we're just excited. We're going to come in. We can do some old songs, do some new songs. We're having a good time about it. Anybody who's coming, you don't have to dress up. You can wear your T-shirts. It's 100 more degrees in D.C. right now. So don't worry about getting too dolled up. So, yeah, we're excited about that.
That's great. Can you tell me about a challenge that you faced in music ministry, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Absolutely. I always joke about a personal thing. Usually when I do a song or an idea and let out a single, as a very personal matter, that's always sort of what I feel like the enemy tries to attack for me. Whenever I, say something as a title, that's where he wants to pay attention. So like my last single was Don't Let Go. And it was a song encouraging people through their hard times and to just hold on to God's unchanging hand. And never have I ever in my life not felt like continuing on as much as I did in that moment. There's a song we did, a big popular song called Glad About It. And it's just a celebration, a praise song. And sometimes, it would be tough to do that song if you're in a bad or sad mood, or you're feeling lonely, or you're feeling depressed about anything. And then the title of the song is Glad About It. And I would always say, like, every time I say what I'm going to do, I feel like that's where the enemy tries to attack. But the way I've dealt with it is I just try to stay prayed up as much as possible. It's a situation where I kind of know where the enemy is going to attack. And if that's what he wants to do, that's fine. But as long as I have God with me and God inside of me and the love of Jesus for all the people that we're ministering to, there's really, even though it may affect me, it won't, complete me, however I'm feeling at the moment. So sometimes I guess I mean to say that it's been very hard to get on stage and make yourself believe, what you're singing. But he always, right in the moment when we're about to minister, God always reassures me about his love, and I'm able to go forward. I've never had a time period where I've been on stage and didn't want to be there.
So what advice would you have? Because you said you've been doing full-time music ministry for a long time. What advice would you have for someone if they came to you and said, I want to do full-time church music ministry? What advice would you have for that person?
Well, you really gotta sow, or people say pay your dues, do your time, stuff like that. You need to find someone who's anointed, who is, gifted, talented, in the area of ministry that you would like to go and that you feel God leading to you. And you need to just set yourself under them, learn from them, learn how they do it, learn how they minister, learn where they are. I'm still learning. I have, mentors in and out the city who I just call and ask, what do you do here? How do you do when this situation comes up? But you have to always, be shepherded. And a lot of people, even not just in singing, but even like preaching and stuff like that and starting churches, they just jump out there and they don't have any covering, any parenting, shepherding in what it is that they want to do. So even though they have a good heart, they don't have any direction. And so I think that the first thing you should do, if you know that God is leading you somewhere, you should pray also for God to lead you to someone, because he always will. So, you want to do that and you want to focus. You also want to practice your craft. You don't want to become a keyboard player and say you're going to be a keyboard player and then you're not good. It's still an art, so you want to practice and you want to focus and you want to set yourself under someone. Those early steps will take you a long way.
Can you elaborate why is shepherding so important?
It's very important. It's just a matter of know-how. It's just a matter of getting someone who knows how to do it and who's been through it. A lot of times you'll come to find out that God has allowed some people to go through stuff so you won't have to. So if there are some contract issues or just some money issues and there's another artist who's done this for a while who can tell you, don't do it that way, do it this way. I've done it that way won't work, or this is a smarter way to do it. You got to have someone to look up to. Now, a lot of times what ends up happening is, we like to believe, jokingly, that our anointing is so unique and there's nobody knows what I'm doing. And I understand that. I understand that. But you have to get to a place where you will listen to somebody else. A lot of times, people are so inspired in the moment that they just feel like, I know it all, I know what I'm going to do. You got to stop and listen. Somebody's going to be able to tell you you're wrong here. Yeah. It's got to be somebody that you listen to, because, if somebody tell you you're wrong and you don't think nothing of them, you're going to listen to it, So it's very important. It's important in everything you do, really. But in this line of ministry, in this form of work for the kingdom, you got to have somebody that you trust and somebody that God trusts you with, right, that you can definitely learn from.
Man, that's important. The God trusts you with, because sometimes we want to find a mentor. We want to find somebody who's just like us,
right?
But older or more experienced, just like me, but more experienced. But that's not always the person who God has for you.
Absolutely. I've attached myself before to people who I just knew. I was like, this guy's doing what I'm doing. They sing the way I want to sing. They write songs the way I want to song. I just know that they have so much to impart into me. And God is just like, that's not it. That's not the place where you want to go. I have a very good friend and mentor in Minister Jonathan Nelson. He's down in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, but he was in Baltimore. And for a long time, I just thought that God can't want me to reach out to this guy. We don't do the same kind of music, never really in the same circles. And once we connected, his what he's imparted and the wisdom that he's shown me has just been such a great asset to what I'm doing, and I really appreciate him. He's a good friend. Shout out to Jonathan Nelson. What's up, man? But yeah, it's been great, and you gotta put yourself in a position where you're willing to learn. That's the only thing to it. And you also have to realize that you're never going to stop learning. Once you get to that top level, it's still something to learn. You got to be open and available to receive the resources that God has available for you.
So, and if you add, let's say someone wanted to get into recording ministry, so they want to be a church ministry, they wanted to be a recording artist. Is there anything in addition you would add to what you just said? It's
absolutely the same thing. Now, this is a little different. I know a lot of people don't have open recording sessions. I know at a certain point I kind of shut my sessions down too. But to those people who are working in the studio, you got to get around. You got to go to the studio. You got to learn what they're doing. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You want to know the right time when to ask questions, because you ask the question at the wrong time, somebody blow up on you. I'm mixing, leave me alone. So you always want to go around and learn. That's how I learned. My uncle, Minister Isaiah Thomas here in D.C., he was always producing records when I was growing up, and I would just go and just sit in the session. I don't even know if he knew I was there all the time. You know, I would just go sit and be quiet, learn what I learned, take what I take. Maybe later I would ask him a question, ask him what's this do, what's that do, you know, ask the engineer questions. So when it was my time, even though I didn't know everything, I knew enough to get started. And recording is also an on-the-job learning process. You know, once you start, you'll realize that it was a whole world of it that you didn't know. So, but yeah, all of it's the same. You got to get with somebody who's doing it and pray that that person is someone who God has allowed you to be able to receive from, and go forward in that.
Okay, so a couple things I want to touch on based on what you just said.
Oh yeah.
It's not uncommon. Some people may not notice, but it's not uncommon to just go in and sit in on the session, as long as you're not bothering anybody.
Well,
have you found that some people are generally open to that? Do you just going in, just sitting in on a session?
Well, you know, you can't just show up and be a stranger, you know,
Yeah.
sit on someone's session. It definitely needs to be someone that you have, you know, reached out to, or you can ask them. I don't find anything wrong with asking someone, hey, I know you're in the studio. Do you mind if I just come in and learn, or come in and listen? I won't be a part of it. All they can tell you is no.
Yeah.
So if they tell you no, you just don't go. They may tell you yes the next time, but if they do tell you yes, and I was just so favored by God that people that were working took a liking to me, and they saw in me the sincerity, you know, that I really wanted to do this. So when I would go to the studio, you know, I wouldn't get in the way. I wouldn't bother. You know, there's a lot of thinking and thought processes going on in that, and I just stepped back and just learned. But people would notice that I was there, and they would say, you know, come in, Gerald, let me show you this, or let me show you this, or they would be open to asking me any questions, you know, or I'm sorry, allow me to ask them any questions. And so that was great for me. You definitely don't want to just show up on somebody's session, you know, just banging on the door. You know,
that's good for people to know.
I'm telling you, some people that you see on stage are a lot different in the studio. Praise God. But it's something that you want to, you know, it's all about networking. It's all about networking, putting yourself in the right position to you know, gain what you need to know.
So if you don't mind me asking, why did you decide to shut down your sessions?
Sometimes our sessions, when we get into the end, we can, you know, once we start to see the light at the end of the tunnel, we know, okay, now it's time to focus. You know, we've done all the band has cut their parts, singers, you know, any overdubs or any special things we want to add to it. And once we start mixing, that's when, you know, that's when it's time to stay focused. And so at those are times when, you know, we're just there focused, and we're trying to make sure everything is right. That's a very important process to me. And the recording process is the mixing and making sure everything is clean, and editing and stuff like that. So these are not necessarily times to ask the questions for me. You know, like I said, once we start to see that light at the end of the tunnel, that's when we're ready to, you know, sort of make sure we get to that place. So I have shut my sessions down before, and I know I even have friends out there like, gee, why you didn't let me come to the session, you know? But you know, it's just a matter of staying focused for me, and it happens, you know, but there are times when, you know, if we just going to do some overdubs, or we just going to knock out some small parts, you know, it's sometimes I get sick of being in the studio and don't want to be there by myself no more. And so I'm calling everybody like, please come out here, order some pizza or something. Let's just sit out. I'm losing it. I've been here 10 hours. Like, I'm losing my mind, you know. Yeah. But it depends on how each person works. Each person works differently, you know, and working with so many different producers on this record, I got to see how certain people work. You know, I have a cousin, Morgan Turner, who's producing, who produced 2 songs in this record, and he just makes it look so easy. Like, he just gets in there, does it. He, you know, can play his parts, direct other people's parts, and it's done. Yeah. And, you know, when I'm there, it's a little more, you know, processed, you know. But you know, sometimes you just gotta shut it down.
So one of the things you mentioned earlier was that once you start a recording or a career in recording, that a whole bunch of things open up to you that you just never knew about.
Right.
What were some of those things for you, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah. Well. Sometimes there's still a such thing as being in the right place at the right time. You know. I actually played on my first record. The first record I played organ on 7-8 years ago. I just went to the band rehearsal and was there just learning the music. And the producer, who was Isaiah Thomas at that time, he just turned around and said, gee, I need you to play organ on this song. And it's really just because I was there. It wasn't because I was better than anybody else. And, you know, he was just needed an organist, and I played, and I was so excited about it. Like I was like, oh my God, I'm playing. You know, he don't even have to pay me. I'm just, you know, that was just an opportunity for me, that being there and showing myself trustworthy, that, you know, I was dependable, and having, you know, played a few times or been in some scenarios where they knew, everybody that was involved knew that I could get the job done. I was just there. You know, had it been another young organist, he would have got the job, you know. And so you kind of want to be around, you know, a lot of times people are developing something and they want to stay home and until it's right, and until they got it where they want to get it. And that's not really realistic. You have to go out there. You have to see how it's done. You know, it's sometimes you don't want to bear your growing phase. You don't want to show that, but you have to. You know, that's the only way you're going to learn. You got to, I always tell people, you got to get out there and go down in flames before you can be good. You got to, you know, really, as an artist, even when you start singing, the mics are going to go off on you at some point you're playing, you know, you're not going to be as comfortable with the song. You got to go down in flames first before you can start to build. It's a humbling experience. It's a breakdown experience. And you'll come to find that years later, it'll be a joke. You know, in that moment, of course, you're having a nervous breakdown, but, you know, you'll learn that it'll help you, you know, to that, for that growing process to be shown.
So if you weren't doing music ministry, what would you be doing?
Oh man, that's a good question. I was actually a history major in college.
Okay.
I was a history major. I wanted to be a lawyer. I was a part of a pre-law program in high school, and I was really interested in constitutional law, and I just wanted to be a lawyer. I just wanted to do that, or I wanted to teach something, but that's really what I wanted to do. And I was just playing music on the side. It was a little, you know, I used to joke, you know, in high school, it was just tennis shoe money. You know, you play on the weekend and buy some Jordans for high school, and that was it. I enjoyed doing it, but I never thought this would be what I was doing in my life. You know, I never thought that this would be my full call, you know, and I'm just excited about that. But yeah, we always ask each other that question, you know, as a way to, all the musicians I know, to sort of see what kind of people we each are, and we all, it's so many crazy different answers. We always say, what would you do if you wasn't doing music? What would you do if you weren't doing this? What would you do doing that? And a lot of us haven't thought about it. And you know, some of us is like, you lucky I'm doing music, because I don't know what I'm doing. So that's kind of how I was focused on. It's always funny when I answer that question.
So is there anything else that you wish I would have asked about that I didn't? Anything else you want people to know about you, about music ministry?
This has been a fun interview. I don't think I've ever answered questions like this about ministry, and it's actually made me think of some answers. I'm good with it. I mean, of course, I want to keep
please.
You know, where am I showing?
Right there.
Yeah. So,
and when's it coming out?
The CD comes out July 17th, Tuesday, July 17th. It's in all stores. It's on iTunes, is everywhere. Everybody needs to get it. You can pay attention to me on Twitter at @GScottCo. That's at GSCOTTCO. You can find out ways to win it for free. We're excited about this record, and I just need everybody to rush to stores, rush iTunes. You know, make your computers move slow. You know, get to it. You got to get this record. This record is for everybody. You know.
Also, you have a website. Do you want to plug?
The website is gscottmusicgroup.com, gscottmusicgroup.com, and we're just in the process right now of adding a lot more features to it to make it bigger and better. Facebook, you can like our fan page, Gerald Scott and Company. Come add me as a friend. I don't deny anybody. You know, you can come on there and ask me however you think, anything you want to get this record or get any of the other records we've done. I'm open, you know, definitely.
Okay, and if you're watching this, or people will be watching this on YouTube or iTunes, I will have links to everything Gerald just mentioned on thegospelblog.com. So links to Facebook, Twitter, website, all that. You can go there if you forget or you're not in a rush. Go to thegospelblog.com. You can click on that. You can follow The Gospel Blog on Twitter at The Gospel Blog. Also, The Gospel Blog on Facebook. Gerald, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great pleasure.
I appreciate it. Thank you.